Welcome to the homework support video for finding a missing angle in a triangle. We're going to go ahead and look through the 6 problems you were asked to do today. And again, there's an example problem at the very top, so please make sure you're looking at that as well. This is page 6 in your packet. I would really think about this concept here. The sum of the interior angles of any triangle is 180 degrees. That's really the relationship you need to understand. And so you should be able to set up a simple equation, so showing how you add all 3 of those angles together and you get a sum of 180, and then ultimately going through and solving for x, as well as then going back and solving for the missing angle. So we're going to go through some of the ones in your homework as you correct it. Make sure that you're thinking about what makes sense and what you still need more support on. You're going to have an exit ticket on this concept coming up soon. So these are the first 3 problems, and so again we're asked to find the value of x and the unknown interior angle for each triangle. Again, you've got to remember that every triangle has 3 angles that add up to 180 degrees. So we're going to start by writing an equation. So in the case of number 1, I have 40 plus x plus 45 plus 45 that make up my triangle. So I'm going to write a quick equation, 40 plus x plus 45 plus 45 equals 180 degrees. So now one of the things we talked about in class is that you need to combine like terms. So any numbers that I see by themselves, such as 40 plus 45 plus 45, those are like terms that I can combine. If I had more terms with x terms, like 2x plus 3x, I could combine those two. So I'm going to add these together. 45 plus 45 would be 90. 90 plus 40 would be 130. So 130 plus x equals 180. So now again, you might think about fact families and how I can kind of work my way backwards. You could also say 180 minus 130 equals x. And so in this case, that would be 50. Now I've got to be careful because 50 is not my final answer completely. I have to go back and plug this in and solve for one of the angles. And so here I'm asked to solve for angle R. So as my last step, I'm going to think about x plus 45. So 50 plus 45 would equal 95. So 95 degrees is my measure of this angle here, R. And again, one last check to make sure I'm correct would be to go back and add those angles together, 40 plus 45 plus 95, and make sure that I get a sum of 180. And so in this case, 5 plus 5 is 10, and then I have 18 here. So 180, check. Moving on to number 2. My new angles, I have x plus 20 plus 50, and then I've got this guy right here, which hopefully you recognize as a right angle, 90 degrees. So those 3 angles added together make 180. Again, I'm going to go ahead and combine my like terms. So looking at this, 20 plus 50 would be 70. 70 plus 90 would be 160. So x plus 160 equals 180. So again, rewriting this, 180 minus 160 would give me x, which is 20. So x is 20, however the actual angle is x plus 20. So I'm going to go ahead and take my 20 and add 20 more to get 40. So my answer for angle D is 40 degrees, but again I'm going to double check. So I'm going to add 40 plus 90 plus 50, and I see that I get 180. On number 3 here, I'm going to go ahead and add those angles together. So 30, 85, and 2x minus 5. So 30 plus 85 plus 2x minus 5 equals 180. I'm going to go ahead and combine my like terms. So 30 plus 85 minus 5. So 30 plus 85 would give me 115. Minus 5 would give me 110, plus 2x equals 180. All right, now this one is a little interesting. This is what we call a two-step equation. And so here I'm actually going to need to do a little bit of work more before I do the multiplying and dividing. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 110 from each side, because I know that with an equation, this is just kind of like a scale. When I do something to each side, it stays balanced. And so if I subtract 110 here, it gets rid of this 110, and it kind of helps me come up with another answer on the other side that's a little bit more easy for me to solve. And so 180 minus 110 gives me 70. And so now I have the form I'm kind of used to. So if 2x equals 70, that means 70 divided by 2 would give me x. And so in this case, I get 35. And so x equals 35. However, angle P is 2 times x minus 5. So again, angle P here, 2x minus 5, 2 times 35 minus 5. So in this case, 2 times 35 is 70, minus 5 gives me 65. And so again, my thought right now is that it's going to be 65 degrees, but I'm going to double check. So 30 plus 85 plus 65, I'm going to add them together. 5 plus 5 gives me 10, and then I have 18 here, so 180. So again, I've checked each one, I've written an equation to solve each one, I've really thought about each step carefully. Let's take a look at the last 3 problems. So next equation, 40 plus x minus 10 equals 180. So I'm going to combine like terms, 40 plus 40 minus 10. And at that point, I will have 80 minus 10 is 70. So 70 plus x equals 180. And now, again, this is kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes I'm going to need to do an extra step here. And so in this case, I'm going to subtract 70 from each side. And that will give me x equals 110. And again, this just helps me by doing the same thing to both sides. I keep it balanced. And so now I've actually solved for x. So x is 110. However, angle D, tells me that that angle is x minus 10. So I'm actually going to have 110 minus 10, which is 100. So that particular angle is 100 degrees. Looking at number 5, I've got 50 plus 95 plus x plus 15 equals 180. Again, I'm going to combine like terms. So 50 plus 95 is 145, plus 15 is 160. 160 plus x equals 180. Again, go ahead and subtract 160 from each side. This leaves me with x equals 20. And again, I'm going to put that in here for x equals 20, but I have to go back to my original angle and see that it's really x plus 15. So 20 plus 15 would give me 35. So this angle is actually 35 degrees. And I haven't been doing that last step with double checking to make sure that they add up correctly, but again, you should be doing the same thing. 95 plus 50 plus 35 would give us 180. Same thing over here with the one before. 100 plus 40 plus 40 would also give us 180. So make sure you're also doing that step as you go, just to check and make sure you're on the right track. And finally, this is our last one. So 105 plus 35 plus x minus 5 equals 180. Combining like terms, 105 plus 35 minus 5. So 105 plus 35 will give us 140, minus 5 would give us 135, plus x equals 180. Again, we're going to go ahead and subtract 135 from each side. And so now we have x equals 45. And so now at this point, I can go ahead and find that missing angle. So x minus 5 is my angle. So 135 minus 5 gives me 130 degrees. Again, I'm going to double check that answer because I can see there's a problem there. Can you figure out what I did wrong? So x is 45, right? So I need to do 45 minus 5 to get 40 degrees. All right, let's try that again. So we think that x is 40 degrees. So 105 plus 35 plus 40 equals, again, we've got 180. 0, 8, and then 1, 180 degrees. So make sure as you're working, you're thinking really carefully about the different angle sizes and what's reasonable. You'll notice that I stopped myself there because I thought 135, that's not possible to add to 105 and 35 and make a sum of 180. So definitely make sure you're thinking about if your answers are reasonable or not. And again, come with any questions you have for tomorrow so you can ask your teachers more about this. Tomorrow you will have an exit ticket, and it's going to be really important that you remember that angles of a triangle must add up to 180 degrees. You're also going to be asked tomorrow on your exit ticket about if you can make a triangle from 3 given side lengths. So I would suggest you review your notes from our lesson today and think about how do you know if you can make a triangle when you're given 3 side lengths. And then we're also going to ask you to do a small construction. So come ready with your tools to draw an accurate triangle based on criteria. See you tomorrow.